Engaging virtual meetings, John Chen.
Oh wait, watch. I missed my music cue.
See, this is what happens when you're live.
I'm excited to miss my music cue. Hold on a second. Oh yeah, here we go. Give the last line again.
The author of Engaging Virtual Meetings, John Chen.
There we go. That's official. Hey there, I'm John Chen. I'm the author of a little book called Engaging Virtual Meetings, and you're in Engaging Virtual Meetings, the way to beat Zoom fatigue. Hi, Amy. How you doing? She's reaching for the mute key. Dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. Here, Amy, let's see if I can help you. I'm going to unmute you on my side. Ready?
Guys, theater guys, and all the lights and stuff. I'm never getting the horses and some of them aren't and all this.
Amy's got audio going on. That's why I got it going on. Great. Amy, chat us when you're ready. So this is a couple things, you know, already here like this. We asked you for permission to unmute. I think it's one of the ways to solve 2020's biggest problems, which is you're on mute, which is allows me or the producer to unmute you. So hopefully you never have to say the dreaded words again, though. Both Karen and I are packing signs. Let's see, where's our signs? There's one. She's even faster than I am. There's one there, too. Okay, I'm happy that all of you are here. This is great. I love to work with groups like this, and I look forward to hearing what your challenges are. But I definitely want to give you some value immediately. So number one is I used to do team building. I did 24 years of team building, and of course then coronavirus came around and canceled 15 of my meetings in March of 2020. So what did I do? I actually put up a class called Virtual Team Building, and about 5,000 people took it last year. And so what I want to do is I want to show you, I've actually been meeting online for 35 years. And so if any of you remember a service called Prodigy, go ahead and chat Prodigy in the chat box. So what I want to do is just share a lot of the tips and things like that. So I actually wrote another book called 50 Digital Team Building Games in 2011, and I already had an idea, was experimenting with what was happening online. And I mean, the one gift that the coronavirus gave me was that it showed that a lot of things that I thought was right. So I'm going to give you the number one tip. Let's see, Cassie, do you do any speaking online? Like, do you present?
Occasionally.
Occasionally? Okay, great. So over the course of the last 16 months, this is what I've developed that's in front of me. So this is what I'm broadcasting from in front of today, right? And so, yeah, there's actually 6 screens, and there's actually laptops on the side here for a variety of other reasons. Because now I do like 10, 20% team building, but I spend 80% of my time designing, producing, and sometimes speaking and MC at virtual meetings. So to give you the number one tip, if you are speaking on a virtual meeting, here we go. Okay, the tip is stand up. So the tip is stand up. If you have to present at a virtual meeting, or think about different ways to stand up. So I have this fancy lifter desk, and actually I got to tell you, like, it's retail $1,500. There's a lot of used ones around there. They're less than $300. So that you can find one of these and do that. And even if you don't have those kind of resources, all I can tell you is some of even my top speakers, they're putting boxes and other types of things like that. All you care about is that your camera is eye level, right? And then it gives you the ability to do this, which is stand up. And you'll see that people will receive you differently. You'll see your own energy be different if you're presenting standing up. Now, today I'm also going to show you a second way to stand up. So while we do that, so you can watch this now in the high-tech version. I'm really going to give you some behind the scenes. Behind here is really kind of watch this. There's a couple other different things that you can do here too. So I have this new one that I'd like to share with you today. And so in terms of this one, as we go into it, is that I can show you a new way to stand up. So how many of you have seen this? Oh, and I bet the best part here too is, oh, here we go, is this. So I can even go, actually I should do this version here. This is, all right, how many of you have seen this? Over here we have the sound of music. We're watching the beautiful flowers. The weather's going to be 72 and sunny over here. Okay, have any of you seen this? Raise your hand if you've seen this. You either shake your head and say, nope, haven't seen this before. Yeah, so here, even I haven't actually displayed this on live stream yet, so this will be the first time that we'll do that. How does this work? I am using a fancy piece of software called Open Broadcaster Service, Open Broadcaster Software, and the best news is that it's free. So here we go, check this out, watch this, the magic behind me. So I just didn't build a green screen, I needed it bigger, I actually built a cube. So I have a cube, and so if you can actually see how this is all I'm doing is walking through this, and the software processes this, and now this actually took me about 14 months to develop. I had to get rid of a couch that was actually in this space, and now I actually built a green screen that can do this now. What happens, of course, what you see online is this, right, and it all disappears. So those are some of the things that you can see as you go along. They're just crafty tricks. But more importantly is I have 6 things that are very simple that you can do. It doesn't require a lot of this wizardry, but I do like to do this part, which is to open up the possibilities. Like, what can you do here on virtual? And I can tell you that you can at least buy 10 minutes of engagement using some of these virtual tricks, because especially if you've never seen them before. So, you know, the amazing part is that we did the study about 4 months ago, and still, what do you feel is your biggest obstacle during virtual meetings? The number one problem still this year is getting attendees to engage, right? We're 17 months into pandemic, and getting people to engage is still challenging. You know, people are still talking over each other, and then there's this lack of participation, or of course your friends who, you know, if you have 2 or 3 screens, they're texting, they're calling, right, if the meeting is not engaging somehow. So these were some of the top pet peeves with that. So our solution for that is 6 letters. The word is engage. So every letter stands for something, and every time you do one of the letters, that your odds of your virtual meeting being perceived as engaging go up. So the first letter is E, is engage and interact with every attendee. So as you can already see, things like I'm doing now, I believe that was Amy, right? So Amy is here. So let's see, Amy, now, are you in a place where you can unmute?
I am.
Yay! Where are you calling in from, Amy?
I am calling from Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut, great. So we have Connecticut, California, South Carolina on the line today. So what are you excited to, or what challenges were you having on the Zoom fatigue side? I'm just kind of curious, Amy.
Well, I work as a consultant and I do coaching via Zoom, but now there are times when I will be doing, instead of an on-site meeting, in a doctor's office doing attendees. And so I am on the front edge of doing more than one attendee in a meeting. So that's why I'm in here, to learn how to engage. Because one-on-one is easy, but doing a full engagement lesson is going to be trickier.
Perfect, great. And so, yeah, so group work is really something, especially, Karen and I have actually both produced a conference that was 1,200 people, right? And getting a virtual meeting to be engaging for 1,200 people, I can tell you is a challenge, and I can tell you that we did it. So we'll give you some of those things that'll make your 4, 5, 6, 7, person meetings easier. Side tip, if you haven't ever done it in a one-on-one meeting, right now I'm spotlighted, so hopefully you see all of me, but in a one-on-one meeting, quite often, I will right-click and pin somebody who I'm talking to, so they can take the entire screen. Now, why is that important? Because their eyes actually are just below the camera. So it feels like I'm talking directly to them, and their presence is bigger. Like, I already know what I look like, so I don't need to see that. So you can either hide self-view or you can pin the other person, and quite often I find that is a better way for me to connect with people on a one-on-one piece. If you haven't tried it, you should. Later on, we maybe show you we've seen a center cam. Somebody on Kickstarter invented a center cam, which will drop a camera 2 to 4 inches below the edge of the screen. So you can literally put the camera where their eyes are. And again, what you're looking for is this, right? I'm talking directly to you. So the key here, engage and interact with every attendee, is exactly what we're doing here. Have a plan to engage with every attendee before the end of the meeting. And that could be in any way that you have possible. It could be like this, talking with them, right? It could just be auditory. It could be even chat, or it could be a poll. What you're looking for is just hopefully that person, engages and interacts in one way, and the way that they want to before the end of the meeting. So we'll show you some different ways that we can do that. So now the other one is that, so I asked how many you speak at a meeting. How many of you actually are the host of your virtual meeting? The host of your virtual meeting. So you schedule the meeting, you're the person in charge. How many of you do that? Just raise your hand. 1, 2, head shake yes. Amy's about to. Adam doesn't do anything, he just sits in his basement. Okay, great. So I have a friend, she started running her Zoom meetings in March of 2020, and here's all the things that she has to do. She has to write the marketing, write the registration, set up her Zoom room, ran her own security, kept track and engaging with every person. She recorded and streamed a Facebook Live. She shared her own slide deck. She chatted to attendees while presenting. She set up and ran breakout rooms. And in the end, how did she feel? Just unmute and give me one word. How did she feel?
Exhausted.
Exhausted is exactly correct. You know, even for me, I've been online for 35 years. I still get caught on mute. I still forget to press record, right? So, you know, the key here is that the N in engage stands for never lead a meeting alone. In fact, one of my very good friends coined the term, if you're mostly on Zoom, never Zoom alone. So today, Karen, of course, is here. Let me actually bring Karen in. There we go. So there's Karen. So Karen is my producer today. So Karen is helping out. Even in smaller meetings like this, you'll see that there'll be advantages for it. So right now, Karen was in charge of admitting. She's looking at security. She can actually directly chat you. If either one of you are having a technical problem or if you're having a question, because I like to move kind of fast, you can ask Karen. And so that's really one of the keys here is to never lead a meeting alone, especially your very important meetings. You'll find that way you'll never have to, you know, do things like let me share my screen, right? Sometimes you can move a lot of these functions to the producer, and what's most important is that you stay completely connected to your audience during this time. So Karen and I, you know, the most extreme example of never lead a meeting alone is going back to that 1,200 person conference, is that we had 200 people. 200 speakers, producers, ambassadors, and staff who are all working together to make it feel engaging for the 1,200. And so that's where we really see this. I had somebody too, she was a member of BNI, which is a referral network. She had a meeting, and since March of 2020, as soon as they went virtual, she was never able to get this meeting to end on time. So I gave her this tip after listening to her, and I said, well, try this, never lead a meeting alone. So she came back a week later, and she goes, oh my gosh, John, you're never gonna believe it, right? I finally got my meeting to end on time. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. But of course she goes, but wait, there's more. She goes, not only did we get to end on time, but I also re-included 18 minutes of material, important content that I threw out trying to make it on time. I put the 18 minutes back in and I still ended on time. I'm like, that's fantastic. How'd you do that? She goes, I didn't get one person, John. I got 2. She had 2 people helping her admit, chatting, right, taking care of, prepping the next speakers, whatever it was. And in addition to that, she's about to transition out of this leadership role and hand it to one of those 2 in 4 months. So she's basically training 2 people about, you know, how to handle this meeting and get it to run on time while still providing all the valuable content. So N is never lead a meeting alone. Okay, the next one, of course, is bad background. So hopefully you've seen some of these, right? I can tell. Right? As soon as I can see a ceiling, or my other friend had a good one. She goes, as soon as you can see a floorboard, you know the camera's in the wrong angle, right? Of course, too close. This one is, I'm pointing at a window. I still see a lot of this. And my other good friend, I don't know how to use my green screen, all right? So the G in engage stands for good looks. Find a way to look good on here, all right? So I have a statistic and a quote, all right? The statistic is about 60 to 65% of all of our language is body language. And so if you're missing this, right? This is why, like, if you know, people are turning off videos, you're missing a lot of that information from that, the speakers as well as your audience, right? And the quote that we have is this: the background of our video conferences is key to the image that we present of ourselves. I'll say that again. Our video backgrounds are key to the image that we present of ourselves. So many of us with our old pre-pandemic offices, we arranged them in such a way so that you would get a certain impression when you walked in, right? Sometimes it felt like in pandemic, some people just completely forgot that. You know, I've had some very top-end, high-end speakers, and they came in and were Zooming from their kitchen, right? And it didn't represent their brand. And so really say, you know, good looks here. Think about the different things that you can do here, right? So this actually is a picture of my real background. These are, I arranged these things if you look carefully, right? So if I did this, I usually am here, right? If I do this, it's designed for my head, right? is that you can see these other items. And I put these items here on purpose so you'd learn a little bit about me. And all of us are doing that. If you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink, we all blink people and video and things, right? We make snap judgments in a short amount of time with our lifetime experience. So you at least should be a good experience with that. And so you can look for different parts that you can do inside of your background. The next challenge is, of course, people talking over each other. So until Zoom and many other technologies are getting better, if two of us talk at the same time, you can't understand each other, right? I think maybe our last year's presidential debate convinced us of this. So what's the secret? The secret is A, and ENGAGE stands for this, air traffic control. So this is actually a video of 5,000 flights here in America at our peak of aviation. They can all fly and they don't crash into each other. Why? Because we have air traffic control. I think your virtual meeting, the audio channel in your virtual meeting is exactly the same way. You should, as a host, you should look for different ways to see how to get one person to talk at a time. You'll find actually that the meeting will go faster and be more productive as opposed to wasting time and having people repeat themselves. Sorry, say, can you go again? The next challenge is working online. March of 2020, I had 7 PhDs trying to make a decision for their students, and they were unable to do it. Why? They had no systems, right? And they had never practiced on making decisions on a virtual meeting. And this was for their students at the college. In an hour, they were unable to make this decision. They just had to go with whatever they had at the time. And so we really want to look at that. And so the G in ENGAGE stands for this. Get productive with virtual tools. Look for all the different tools that your platform has. I just taught a 5-day producer class, and people who thought they knew Zoom came back afterwards and they're like, I did not know the depths of Zoom. For instance, did you know that Zoom can actually support 13 simultaneous languages? Tomorrow night, apparently, I think that the client wants to attempt 10 languages, English plus 9 other languages. So that, and that you can actually switch to that. And so this functionality is built in. If you already have paid for the account, it's free, right? It's included. But most people I have almost never seen. I produced 4 of these multi-languages virtual meetings, but I've never seen anybody else use it. And so that's what I'm talking about. There's a bunch of tools here that you can do and do things with. And now we're looking for clever ways. We're talking about building like a digital escape room where there are 4 or 5 speakers on different channels. And that if you listen to the same scenario, you'll get one person's view. But if you switch channels, you'll get a second point of view, right? Kind of like a murder mystery type of thing. And that if you listen to all the 5 channels, you can actually solve the challenge. So there's some crafty things that you can do with the tools. I still think that virtual meetings are new and that people haven't done enough or explored what's possible with them. The last one is this. So Zoom fatigue, you're here because of Zoom fatigue. Okay, how many of you had Zoom fatigue at least once in the last 16 months? That's yes. Okay, so go to the chat and chat the maximum number of hours you've been on video in a day. Again, chat the maximum number of hours you've been on video in a day. Karen will ask you to read them off in just a second. So mine is 16, by the way. I maxed out at 16 hours in a day. I don't recommend it, but I can tell you it's possible. And this was a poll done by public information officers. You know, the interesting part is this. This is 12% of them said 9 to 11 hours, right? This was asked as average, not their maximum. This is the average. Like, how can you be on average 9 to 11 hours when you're only working 8, right? So maybe I guess even their social hours, they're also spending online here too. But Zoom fatigue is actually real. I mean, last year one time I came through another meeting on a different platform. It was very intense. At the end of the meeting, I walked to my bedroom and did this. I just completely passed out. And I didn't wake up till the next morning. And I asked myself 2 questions, right? Number 1 is, what's the number on the truck that hit me? And the second one is, why did that happen? So I've actually done a lot of research, all right, around it. And so here are 3 key reasons. I'll even give you the bonus one for the 4th since we're just hanging out today. Number 1 is you don't have the muscle for it. So if you had not been meeting on virtual meetings prior to March last year, all right, and then you tried to do an 8-hour day, it's going to hurt, right? So your National Park Service would be trying to summit Half Dome. And you don't work out at all. It's not a good combination. So the second one is this. It's like, you know, when your keynote speaker comes in, you're looking for it. It's the most important thing that you're going to get all day, and then I think only Amy understands that this is a joke. But what I'm saying is that technical problems is the next one that causes Zoom fatigue. If your speaker, right, starts stuttering, their video freezes, we spend a lot of extra energy going, what's happening? What does this mean? Right? Is it me? Right? Is it you? Is your connection? So that the technology that's not working is another leader of Zoom fatigue. And now here's the last one. Well, Cassie, I'm going to teach you 4,222 hours of how you can have the most engaging meeting. Okay, she's glazing over already. So that's what I'm saying. If your speakers are not energetic too, that's the other part that we've seen with that. The last one is, this is the bonus one. Do either of you know the word frustrum? Frustrum. So the latest research that came out about 3 months ago said this, right? So in a frustrum is the amount of space that you can move but still participate in a virtual meeting. So for instance, if you have a microphone, right, you can use, as soon as you start to fade off, right, your mic start to, and you come around. So a lot of times like this, like Adam's got a back wall. He just literally can't move backwards. So his frustrum is around that. There you go. So, and they said that the lack of movement is actually one of the key indicators of Zoom fatigue. So the ability to stand up actually is one of them. But in case you saw here, right, I was able to increase the size of my frustrum by 1,000 because now I can come actually way back here. Okay, I can do some of these things back here. And while I'm participating in a meeting, and so this remote microphone is one of the ways that I can do that. But it allows me to do some different things, and it helps prevent Zoom fatigue. So the last tip that I'm going to give you is this, is the E in Engage stands for end your meeting on a high note. So this is actually another tip too that we use a lot of time especially in that let's say that 1,200 person conference, we gave this tip to every single speaker. Because every other speaker, sometimes they got into that pattern, right? I'm going to speak for 45 minutes and I'm going to do Q&A for 15. And the problem in ending on Q&A is like it's kind of a downer, right? You don't know what the last question is going to be. So we advised them and said, just cut your Q&A to 12 minutes. Make sure the last 3 minutes, right, is really something valuable. And this came from product market research. In a 60-minute demo, if you take the last 5 minutes and architect a high note with your product, people are more likely to buy. I think your virtual meetings are exactly the same way. So end on a high note. Think about what can you do to end on a high note, and you can look for different ways that we do that today. I love this. Toastmasters, that's right. So Amy's asking some questions. How do you get so many screens layouts? But love the many screens that we saw. Yeah, I dreamt up these 6 screens, and then the layout. So again, I'm using now something. You can actually do this in Zoom. In terms of, I've had other computers logged in with some information, and I'll use spotlighting to bring the screens in. But now I'm using something called, again, Open Broadcaster software. And so it allows me to do these things, these are kind of the things that we missed on Zoom, which is like, how do we do like smooth transitions? Like, oh, look, I'm in my backyard now. Side note, this is actually a video of my backyard. I just ran it for like 20 minutes and then put it into Zoom as my virtual background. So if you have the ability to use virtual backgrounds, you can really change these things. But again, I shy away from the default. If you use the same palm tree and beach that everybody else has, to me it just says you're quote unquote lazy. That's my personal interpretation of it, because you're just using what Zoom has you. Now, if you do this, you're like, oh, this is really cool. Like if you watch this video, if you meet with me sometime, you'll see this video. This sun will set in 20 minutes. And also, somebody walked in front of my camera, and I was kind of mad at first, and now actually people really like it. They're like, did somebody just walk through your background? Right? It's just like they pay attention. They're really paying attention with that. And so that's what I think that you get with engagement. All right, meanwhile with that, let's do this. We're going to go back and now I talked about a bunch of things. Let me show you. The first is air traffic control. So I'm going to establish a speaking rule, right? So if you are on camera, just raise your hand. Let's see if your hands work. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great. So if you want to talk, raise your hand. If you are not on camera, I usually say click participants, raise hand. And the key here is to make sure and give people choices, right? And be clear about them and then follow up on them. If 2 of you go at the same time, I'm going to acknowledge both of you and then establish some kind of order. And that's how I resolve the air traffic control. What we're going to do is I'm going to talk to everybody today, and I'd like you to introduce yourself with your name, location, and 1 problem with your virtual meetings. Here, I'll give an example. Right, raise my hand and say, hey, go ahead, John. I'm John from Seattle, Washington. One problem with my virtual meetings is that I have to get people to remember 6 things before the end of an hour. Okay, so let's go to you. And who would like to go first? Again, just remember, raise your hand, raise your virtual hand if you're ready to go. Thank you, Amy. We'll go Amy, then Adam.
Okay.
So my name is Amy Demas. I am in Connecticut, and the challenge I have is sometimes a doctor's office wants to put everybody on one screen instead of having each person in their own screen so that I can actually see who's there.
Amy, you're running into hybrid challenges, right?
Yes.
That's actually, we have a conference coming up, and we're going to give you some information later. I actually produced my first hybrid meeting, and there's 3 levels of hybrid that I like to say. Number 1 is kind of like somebody just turns a camera on a live production and just sends you the video, right? But you have no way to interact, you have no way to change camera angles or anything else. In this case too, in an office, they put a camera on everybody. In level 2, some people either in virtual or some people in the physical world can interact with each other, right?
Okay.
So one of the ways that you could change your setup is still have that room camera, but tell everyone else to still have their laptop and log in. But the important part here is do not connect the audio. I'm sure if you've connected the audio once in the last 16 months, you've heard echo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's feedback loop because it goes out the speaker, delays, come out the speaker, and goes through somebody else's mic, and then it just starts running around in circles. Adam's laughing because he has to deal with this all the time. So what we've seen, Amy, I have a very good friend. She gave me the best examples of hybrid board meetings. Even as early as June 2020, there were places that were comfortable enough. What they did was desks were separated 6 feet, right? So everyone had their own space. And so but like in a 20-person board meeting, 10 of them were in person and 10 of them were virtual. So one of the ways to do that is that everyone was actually given a separate microphone but ran through a mixer board. So it only broadcasted to Zoom as one source, so it didn't echo.
Oh.
Then everyone opened their laptop and then just turned on their video, but they were talking through the mic, and that way you could see and hear everybody. And now the people that were in person, they could see everybody virtual and in person on their screen. But of course, they have the advantage of looking up, and now they can look around the room and see what they're seeing. But in that case, every single person could participate. Because Amy, I know what you mean. It's like you call in somebody in somebody's doctor's office, and they're like, "Me? Who?" Right?
Yeah, or you can't even see them off screen.
Oh yeah, I did that once. Somebody, I think Karen was with me. They didn't tell me they changed venues with the meeting. So the meeting venue had a Zoom room, right? So they had this big camera. So we had to change the meeting from my link to their link. And then it was like 140 seats, Amy. And so I've got somebody in the 15th row in the back, and I'm like, who is that? And they were actually running a mic, right, to somebody who was in the back, because they have a remote mic so that I could hear the people in the background. But again, that was a big challenge because I can't see, it's really hard to see somebody who's that far back.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps you, Amy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Adam.
Oh, all right. Okay, my name is Adam Slumber. I'm Karen's husband. I'm actually a IT guy. So I'm just here basically to understand more of John's software and about Zoom.
And what challenges are you having with you or your work, Adam?
Unfortunately, I don't really use Zoom much. I just use it for two-way communication with family members and anything like that.
What are you using at work too, then, Adam? I'm just curious.
I don't Zoom much. This is the most Zoom I do.
That's awesome. Okay, good.
The biggest key I get from Zoom for most anybody is keeping Zoom up to date.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a good one, Adam. Actually, there's about 6 releases ago, they gave away, especially if you're the admin of your account, to auto update. Now, it's kind of tricky. It is not, I wish it was just a button and a switch, but you have to do something like on the MSI side, like install one of their other packages, and it will actually auto update for you. There's a new feature too I haven't seen yet. You can set a meeting and require it to have a certain Zoom version. So if you get there, the attendees who don't have the version or higher get a screen and say, please upgrade before you can join this meeting. So that's a new feature. I haven't tried it in production, but I have seen it. And it's pretty amazing when it works. And we do that too all the times. We have features, and we have to, in the past, we've had to deal with both scenarios. But now, if you could actually force somebody to upgrade, you could do that. Hopefully, you could do it before the meeting and give them enough warning. Cool. Thanks, Adam. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to go? We got 2 to go. Let's go to Cassie.
Hey everybody, I'm Cassie. I think that the challenges that I'm having, well, in the National Park Service, we're not allowed to host on Zoom, so our platform is Microsoft Teams.
Yep.
And connectivity is like the overwhelming issue. Parks are really remote, the infrastructure is outdated, like the connections are awful. So that continues to be a challenge and a frustration. And aside from that, I think the main challenge, or what gives me Zoom or Teams fatigue, is like poor facilitation that is poor in person is just replicating itself online. And like it makes meetings feel like they're spinning or a waste of time, and that I think there probably are there are advantages to being online in ways to brainstorm and get ideas and find consensus like much faster. That's just not happening. And it's like we're just replicating these really slow, kind of painful, ineffective meeting procedures that would have been all of us around a conference room table. And here we are over a year into the pandemic, and yet kind of still doing that online.
Yeah, Cassie, that's right on the money. One of the people that I interviewed, I discovered she wrote an article for one of the HR blogs, and I actually reached out to her and met her, and we actually did an interview together. And she said people took the bad habits from their in-person meetings and brought them online, and the virtual aspect just magnified the badness, right? And so, yeah, you really need to look at that facilitation. The best part about facilitation, too, it doesn't require any of this wizardry that I'm doing now. Like, we've seen meetings, right, that are great, very engaging, and it is nothing except using the video aspect and the audio aspect of Zoom. So that's one thing to think about, too. I actually did a whole presentation for the International Coaches Federation in Florida, and they came back to me and they said, it was so refreshing to see that the skills that we have are really needed here on virtual. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're more than ever, because these are all coaches, right? They're experts in asking questions, they're experts in evaluating what's going on, they're experts at facilitating, right? So Amy should be shaking her head at this point if that's what she's doing. And those are things that you need to have this be engaging, right? I mean, the ways that you tune out is I just talk for 60 minutes. And if I'm going to talk for 60 minutes, just do me the favor, right? Send me an awesome video and let me watch it when I want to, and don't host a meeting. Right? So only host a meeting, again, if you want this. This meeting is different because you and you and you and you are here. And to me, that's really what I'm looking at. So Amy asked a question here too. So Cassie, the other one around connectivity too. The one is I'm surprised that Teams is getting better, number one. They are the top, they're in the top 3. Zoom, I believe, WebEx and Teams are all in the top 3. I'm actually producing a very high-end tomorrow, 30 retirees for a large firm, and we're doing it all on Zoom, and I'm actually pushing the boundaries on Zoom. So it's on Teams with that. And I'm a past Microsoftie, so I worked at Microsoft for a decade, so I'm kind of got some things for that. But in the National Park Service too, I know that connectivity is really a big issue. Having a phone number for a meeting as a backup is really key. It's the same thing. If you struggle with that technology, if you can't understand somebody, you waste a lot of time, trying to establish some form of connection. And if you can't participate that way, you have to look for other things that you can do. But I believe most of your locations have that. One thing I got to tell you, Cassie, is that you need to contact, she used to be in charge of, Cheryl Eckhart, I believe it used to be in charge of Goal Academy. And we ran a digital escape room, and I did not know that the National Park Service has at least 4 people who are in charge of doing virtual from the National Park Service. Well, how do I know they're good? We put them in an escape room, versus 17 other National Park Service teams, and they crushed it. And why did they crush it? Because they had been working online and virtually for years. So, and the four of them knew each other. So that they actually had the processes and procedures to solve these challenges in a rapid amount of time. I said, these four people need to be leading seminars for National Park Service. You already have resources inside of the NPS. You should just figure out how to get to them. Okay, Cassie?
That's great. Yeah.
Amy said here, you got a paid Zoom account. Do you recommend the webinar add-ons? So, you know, the funny part about webinars is like, I'm actually not a fan, and here's the reason why. Is because most of the time, the way people use it, you can't see everybody. I'd rather host a meeting and use spotlighting, like kind of like what I'm doing now. And so that I have the opportunity, you can open a gallery even if you spotlight the two speakers and still watch the audience responses. So if I go back to this view, quite often I would do this. You can see here, right? I have you, the gallery, right here. This means even though I'm spotlighted, I can see you all the time. And so if I see a piece of body language going like, oh God, they're dying, right? This is, as a speaker, I can see this. If I can see that you're engaged and nodding your head, I'm like, oh good, I'm on the right point. And sometimes I'll even call that out, right? So as a way to acknowledge you for staying engaged inside of this program. So I'll dedicate different screens to different things. In this setup right now, because it's about 50 per screen, I can see 300 people live. And in 300 people, when I'm speaking, I can do things like, Adam, all right, that's great, but you know, get that concrete wall out of there, right? So I can't wait for Karen to play guitar. So you know, Cassie, you should really update your calendar. You need more things on there. So you know, I'm actually able to tell people like I can see what's going on, and so they have a different level of attention as opposed to this anonymous, right? The speaker never sees me. The speaker never acknowledges me. Does that make sense, Amy? I've had the webinar feature, and if somebody makes you present on a webinar, like they say there's no choice, do this trick for that. My friends at Daybreaker, they run a 5,000 person dance party. And what they do is they promote up to 300 people and use them as the live video background. So there's a lead dancer like this, like me, right? And then all of you are in the background and you become part of the show. It's really...
Well, I prefer to stay away from the webinar, so thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay, great. And Karen, what's going on with Karen today?
Hi, I'm Karen. I am in South Carolina. I'm in the upstate. I would totally love to piggyback on the webinar thing because I've produced a couple of webinars, and not only can you not see the attendees, they can't unmute their mic either. So the only connection that you can have unless you promote them to a panelist is chat, which is a fantastic feature and is totally underutilized. But if you're only having 30 to 50 people, you're going to want to have those personal interactions. I mean, even more than that, it would take a lot of several hundred before I would jump to webinar, just based on what I've seen and what I've been able to participate in, because it's very binding for the attendees because they basically don't have any power to do anything, and also that dog is adorable.
My little Lucy girl.
Lucy, a golden retriever looks like.
Yes, with her sugar face.
Oh, sugar face. Fantastic. Thank you, Amy.
That's my favorite part of Zoom, is getting to see everyone's pets.
You know, somebody said that too, like about 9 months into pandemic. Somebody gave the closing line. It says, thank you for allowing me into your home. And it's like, that really changes the thought, right, of like a virtual meeting. It's true, you know, unless, again, you're back in your office somewhere. But we usually get a lot of little insights to people's homes, and it is an enjoyable aspect of that. So, yeah, so I think hopefully that will help you on the webinar side. And really, what I think my personal recommendation is I wouldn't go to webinar until it hits over 1,000. And the reason why is you can do meetings up to 1,000 pretty easily. As soon as you go over 1,000, you'll have to like contact Zoom directly and do a bunch of stuff. But then they have packages for webinars that are pretty easy. You can just upgrade your account if you in the event that you had over 1,000. So that's probably my only guideline around there. Meanwhile, let's get on to this. So let's teach the next session around here. We're going to talk about good looks. Right, so while I tell you this story about this gentleman, what I'd like you to do is take a look at his background, and in the chat or in your mind, tell me what you see and what does it mean to you? What do you see and what does it mean to you? Here, I'll help you out. Let's see, I think you can see, this is a chess set, if you can't tell that. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a gamer, right? It's like, oh, this guy's at least likes to play games, or might be, strategic, right? So while you do that, I'm going to tell you a little story. So I'll look forward to see what are the insights that you have, right? I'm looking, actually, I know Amy's too. She's a coach. So imagine this guy that was one of your doctors or something. So I'm looking for your insights. Yeah, Amy, what is that? Amy, this, show me the top. Hashtag Amy, this is for me.
And this is for me. It's my Peloton, and over behind my door when I'm on, I have my West Points here. I have my diplomas that are behind the store, and then I have my bookcases that show. So it's very strategic.
Oh, see? Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great. Yeah, if you get a moment, I'd love for, if you don't mind, close your door. I just want to just take a peek. So with this gentleman, here's what's happening with him, is that he was turned 180 degrees prior to changing this around. And so if you can see in the TV, he was pointed at a window, which made his face very dark. He was also had 2 lace doily curtains that his wife has bought that were to the left and right of him. When you discover what his job is, you'll see why this is useful, that he changed around. So he saw one of my actually live streams like this, and he changed his entire background. And so he changed it to this. Okay, so let's take a peek at Amy's now too. Yeah, I see that. Oh, look, she's got the riser desk too. I see that going on now. That's fantastic. Now you know something about Amy too, because Karen, can you see what's up with the books? Can you see what I see? Oh, come on, Karen, you got to see this. I know what it is. Cassie, I'll give you a shot at it. Do you know what it is?
No, I don't know. I do my books by rainbow color, but I don't know how Amy's doing hers.
Well, at least the left side of the books are arranged from high to low.
I see your book on the bookshelf to the side.
Oh my God, I can't see it. Where is it?
It's, for me, it's that, there it is. Bam.
Amy, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I love that. Yeah, see exactly what she's done. And look, she's used the door as the pillar for her head. Mm-hmm. Right? And so this is great. And again, so that's why it's not distracting. Like if she moves and puts her head in front of the bookshelves, sometimes it looks good, right? But it's you can see it's a little more distracting by having that straight background where your head's not getting cut off by an object quite often. I mean, I use those shelves in my last background. Okay, for his background, let's take a look here. This is what I got. So what were some of the things? Cassie says his TV reminds me of a TV in a bar or a restaurant. Amy says orderly. So let me just show you the other things that I saw here. Okay, he's got his chess set. Some people said he was smart, too, just by seeing the chess set. Now, let me just tell you something, right? Remind you of something. He hasn't said anything yet. He's got a suit, his Rolex, right? He's got a suit, no tie. He's clean shaven. Okay, he looks, ready for business. He's got C-SPAN in the background. All right, so it might be a TV or a bar. Some people did say too, this is a controversial piece. Some part did distracting. His inspiration for the television was CNN. He really wanted to feel the people he was meeting with that he was up to date on current events. Look, he's got an analog journal, a notepad, right? The only tech here's the phone and the books. Of course, people see the books do one thing every day that scares you. That is, I looked at that book up on Amazon. If he has an original copy, Amy, it's worth $1,000. But what I'm just showing you this too. It's not what you see, it's what you don't see. Look again. There's really no hint that there's a computer, right? And then how does he actually make this illusion? He actually puts a desk in front of his desk, puts his laptop, angles it so it hits the edge of his desk, then turns on the virtual meeting, walks around and sits in his chair. What does this do for his guests? It makes you feel like his assistant has sat you across from his desk and you're sitting across from him in his office. He's the chief revenue officer talking to Fortune 100s every day, trying to sell his consulting services of his fast-growing company. Whether or not you like this background or not, for him, the number one thing he came back and said was, I'm closing more deals. Right? Another gentleman we heard a story with, he was interviewing for a job and he did the research on LinkedIn, found out his interviewer was a Lakers fan, changed his virtual background to the Staples Center, and immediately the interviewer logged into the meeting and he goes, okay, you got me. And they end up talking Lakers for 5 minutes, right? And he said he warmed up, and in the end, the result is he actually got the job. So, these are these little things that can really help, all right? And the virtual backgrounds, looking good on here is one of the keys. Part of looking good, too, is sounding good, right? So I love, you have to now see Karen's shirt, and Karen will give a demonstration of her shirt. So let's bring Karen back. Karen's shirt says, "Don't make me use my producer voice." And so now Karen will do a demonstration of her radio voice.
Yep, John talked me into getting a mic, so I was able to find a very nice microphone at a pawn shop. And now I can lean in and do my radio voice.
So these are things that you really can do, right? So what I missed about presenting on stage was things like this, mic tricks. There's other things that you can do, and this is to do that variety, right? To give the audience something different. But most importantly, too, is that your audio accounts for like 75% of your presentation. My video can go out, but as my audio goes out, right, then you have no idea what's going on. So I think those are things that are really key with that. Okay, so hopefully you now know a little bit about good looks. Let's see. So let's move along here. So now we're just going to talk about chat. Go ahead and in chat, then this will be a tough one for Amy. What's one more thing you think you could do to make your virtual background even better, right? Or your physical background. So go ahead and give me a couple ideas. We can do that in chat. While you do that, I'm going to talk about why chat is so important. Chat, to me, is the second most engaging tool on virtual. Chat is the second most engaging tool on virtual. Why? It's because everybody can, this is the one place where everyone can talk at the same time. And I've had CEOs and co-founders of companies come back after one of our virtual summits and going, I did not know how powerful chat is, right? It's the ability to get immediate feedback too. Like CEO was saying something and the CEO was reading and watching the chat, right? And seeing some of the things inside of there. And realizing it too. He also realized too, somebody who came into the company who's 2 weeks new was contributing. And he knows that in the in-person meeting, quite often that person wouldn't say anything. And so my guidelines are this: show it as soon as possible, right? Or show people where the chat is, encourage them to do it as soon as you start the meeting and whenever, like now, right? While you're talking, I want you to chat. I took a poll too, like 43 professionals in the business, and I said chat or no chat, and all 43 of them said turn it on. And for those who really think it's distracting, then close your window, right? But for everybody else, you really got to turn it on. I think it helps extroverts get your ideas out. So if you're the extrovert and you're like, I have more to contribute, right? Instead of doing that, just put it in the chat. But I also do team building, and quite often I find that the introverts, which I know there's a lot of them in National Park Service, the introverts, they solve my team building challenges, right, way before anybody else. Why? It's because they're the only ones listening. And so a well-placed chat by an introvert at some part of the meeting, right, can change the course of a meeting, and I've actually seen it happen. So that's why I think chat is so powerful. Now we're going to do this last part here too about using virtual tools. So Karen's going to chat a link. See if you can get it open. And we'll see if somebody can actually share the screen here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a link, and the goal is that we're going to write a poem in about 6 minutes altogether. And here are the rules. So as you do that, rhyming is the name of the game. Don't forget to start with your name. Make sure everyone has a turn. Add as many lines as you can before you adjourn. Don't be shy, be proud. Pick a friend to read it aloud. So the poem has to rhyme somehow. I'm not very strict about it. Second one is write every line with your name. You're not going to say it. It's just I want to know who wrote it. Let's see. You're going to try and get all 5 people who are on this meeting to write a line in this poem. If we get all 5 people, then keep writing until the time is up. And finally, if you are the person sharing the screen, I would like you to choose somebody to read it aloud. Does anybody have any questions before we start? Go ahead, Amy.
So we're writing it on our own, or we're writing it together?
We're writing it together. This is the collaboration part.
And to write in it, you may need to click Edit Document, which, depending on what kind of machine you're on, might be in the middle at the top or towards the right. But that way, we can all actually type at the same time. Or if you would prefer, we can have one person type and everyone can just say whatever they'd like written down.
Excellent. All right, so let's see. First, go ahead. So Amy, do you have the document open? Yeah, can you go ahead and share your screen?
I surely can. That would be my screen too.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So here, I'll give you a line. So you can see that my line is here. And so this ought to be the fun part here too. So some of you are seeing the shared screen. I'm actually going to do this just for the sake of our audience. I think it should be this. There we go. Okay, and now I need to give you a line. Let's see. Let's work together to beat Zoom fatigue. Okay, so now Amy, you're in charge of this meeting for the next 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. So we need to make sure that we can rhyme something with fatigue. So first of all, does anybody have any word that rhymes with fatigue? Adam, I mean, my goodness, any ideas on a fatigue word?
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be any help for her because my English and spelling is terrible. So that's
You
why I'm
said
not
you were an
gonna be-
IT. You did say you were an IT guy. That's true.
I'm an IT guy, but I'm not in English, unfortunately.
Adam, I think
Cassie.
you can rhyme fatigue. Adam can rhyme IT.
That'll work.
I just helped you
True. Here, let's put it on here. How do I get it after yours? Don't ask me. I'm only IT.
Okay, I like that.
Perfect.
Nice.
Cassie, what could we add? Start us on a new line that you can start a new word. You don't have to get fatigue in there.
Spice it up and add music cues.
All right. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, Karen. Karen, give me something to go on with that.
Let's see. So we've got music cues. Don't forget the unmute blues.
I knew blues was coming in there. Very good. Don't forget the unmute blues. Love it.
Na-na-na-na. We're going to sing the blues today.
All right.
Where's Adam's line? Oh,
Well, he inspired me. How about this? Amy, Adam inspired.
there you go. Collab.
Nice.
Okay, 2 minutes. Go ahead, Amy, and see if we can add some additional lines.
All right. So, anybody can think of one of our 6 items we talked about that we can get into one of these lines? Either with looking good. We've had the unmute. We've got this blues thing going on. What about something about ending on a high note?
Oh,
Is there something that we can get in there about a note? We're starting a new phrase, so you don't have to. No, root beer float. Ooh.
Oh, see, I was totally thinking, see, John beat me to go, but I was thinking like greatest of all time go, like, don't forget or make sure you end on a high note. That way your meeting will be the GOAT.
High note. That way your meeting is the GOAT. In honor of Simone Biles, huh?
Yes, absolutely. She is amazing.
I know.
Okay.
Okay, who all's gonna watch the Olympics? Who all's Olympic junkies?
No brainer.
Yeah.
I think I'm already watching the coronavirus. You know, like the testing positive is going to be like, you know, our team could get eliminated. You know, the winners could get eliminated because of what's going on, and so I think it's like a whole new. It's kind of like Survivor met Olympics.
Exactly. I agree. I agree.
Your last job, Amy, is to get one of the amazing people here on screen that is not you to read this poem. Who is that going to be?
And you know, as I look out into our Zoom world, is anybody eager to jump in and volunteer, or do I actually have to voluntold somebody?
I love it.
You can read it.
All right, Cassie, read it out for me.
Go, Cassie.
Okay, let's work together to beat Zoom fatigue. Don't ask me, I'm only IT. Spice it up and add music cues. Don't forget the unmute blues. Make sure you end on a high note. That way your meeting is the GOAT. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you.
All right, let's give a round of applause
Nice.
to Cassie. Thank you, Cassie. That was genius. All right, go ahead, Amy. You can stop share when you're ready.
I'm sorry, what did you need for me to do?
Stop share.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that one more time.
Stop sharing your screen.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
I can do it for you, but I know you're fully capable.
I know. I'm trying to find. Oh, yeah, I got it on my third screen. There you go. There you go.
I know. I do that all the time too. It's like I got to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, like that's something what I call screen mapping. Is I use the same screens for the same thing all the time. So I'm really looking for that. Okay, so let's just do this. I taught you 6 things. Now remember, my goal was for you to remember what those 6 things are. Let's go ahead and see if you remember what they are. What's the E? So just unmute and tell me, what does the E in engage stand for?
Engage.
Oh, there we go. Cassie is a winner. That's right. The E stands for engage and interact with every attendee. What does the N stand for?
Never lead alone.
Never lead a meeting alone. 1 for Amy, 1 for Cassie. I feel like this is the Olympics. What's the G stand for?
Good looks.
Yay, Cassie won. Good looks. That is correct. What does the A stand for?
I'm waiting for Adam. Air traffic control.
I was about to end on time, and then you had to say I'm waiting for Adam. All right, air traffic control. Of course, let's try to wait for people to talk one at a time. What's the G stand for? No pressure, Adam. Somebody else save Adam.
Here, we'll do it here. Get your production tools upright.
Amy, I love Amy's got mic tricks. All right, get productive with virtual tools, including your mic. What's the last E? What does the E stand for?
Everybody,
And on time.
end on time.
End on time, which ending your meeting on a high note, to me is the brand promise for ending on time. It is 10 o'clock. If you do have to hop to another meeting, you are welcome to do so. If you stay, I got a few bonus resources for you. Number 1, I'm going to invite you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to invite you to the Engaging Virtual Meetings group. If you're not already a member, 1,100 people, it feels like 11 billion, who are all here passionate around virtual meetings. And you'll get all new resources like today I posted the latest Zoom update will allow you to broadcast anything, including video, to all the breakout rooms, Amy. I don't know if you knew that. So, Cassie, this would be really cool if you had a large-scale meeting and you're broadcasting a video of a national park. You know, these are things that you can do now. Wasn't possible before. Next one in the tools here, the chat is now valuable. It has all these links inside of it. You can click chat, and you can click the 3 dots if you didn't know how to do this. Click Save Chat, and if you don't know where it is, click Save Folder. It will open up a folder with the text document. You'll have all the chats. So this is a great tip to also teach your people. 16 months till, and a few people still don't know how to do this, which is great. The last but not least, before you go, I'd love to hear what was most valuable for you. So on your end, your meeting on a high note, there are different ways I've done this with large audiences. We've actually handwritten signs Amy, so you can actually do this in just a minute. But because we just have the two of you, let's go with, oh, well, we have the three of you. Amy, Cassie, or Adam, what was the most valuable thing that you learned today? Who would like to go first? Here we go. Let's go to Cassie.
Stand up. Not only for the people who are on the other end of this communication, but for me, like that is, then I will need fewer stretch breaks because I am able to move and wiggle throughout the presentation myself. Win-win.
Yeah, Cassie, if you're NPS, I know this being in the office, but sometimes is killing you. And so stand up, right? Really stand up and really look for that. Again, too, your National Park Service, if you can get your virtual backgrounds to work, you have so many amazing assets, right? And that you really need to share them. And that's what I've talked to National Park Service members. By the way, Cassie, there is another class that the National Park Service is arranging for our next class called Turn on the Damn Camera, which is a whole hour on how we create psychological safety, that we make it safe for you to come and want to participate. So, okay, who would like to go next, Adam or Amy? All the A's.
I'll go next. Learning about, you can actually sort of force people into doing the update in Zoom on a more of a corporate level.
Excellent.
Or
Yeah,
corporate
Adam,
way.
Adam, that's right. It's an IT trick. And actually, if you look at the other one too, on the IT trick, I believe you have the ability as the IT person to make everybody in your organization auto-update Zoom. I think that would be a huge win in savings.
It would be, because if you get too many people outdated, and you have some people in the new version, some people in the old version, they're going to have some trouble down there.
Excellent. I know Cassie's got to run. Thank you, Cassie. Amy, do you want to contribute to our last?
Yes,
contribution?
never leading and meeting alone. Going from that 101 to potentially having to do some group one. So that'll be important. I was thinking that needed to be important, but you just reinforced it.
Excellent.
And I was curious, how did you get to do the stars and the on our names?
Oh, well, hang on here, and I'll tell you, for those who, we have a Facebook Live audience today. Let's just wave bye to our Facebook Live audience. Thank you so much for joining us.